Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna. Welcome to this evening's puja and satsang. We are going to commence with our short puja this evening now. So if you are seated in front of your puja place, you may follow the instructions that I'm going to give you. Sprinkle water on yourselves and all the puja items and participating devotees while I chant this mantra. Om pavitraha pavitro va sarvavastangatopi va yah smaret pundarikaksham sa bahyabhyantraha shuchi. Now we are going to sip water from the palm of our right hand for purification, internal purification. Doing Hari Smaran, thinking of Bhagwan, sip water 3 times. Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha. Now rinse your hands 3 times. Om Hrishikeshaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Madhusudanaya Namaha. If you have a paiti, a kus ring, you may put it on. Alternatively, put your hands together and also meditate on Bhagwan. Om Pavitresto Vaishnavyo Saviturvaha Prasava Utpunamya Chidrena Pavitrena Suryasya Rashmabihi Tasyate Pavitra Pate Pavitra Putasya Yatakamaha Punetachakeyam. Now you should apply some sandalwood paste to your forehead using the thumb of the right hand. You may start at the top of the nose and move upwards. Om Chandanam Vandyate Nityam Pavitram Papanashanam Apadam Harate Nityam Lakshmir Vasati Sarvadham. If you have not lit your house lamp, you may do so now. Om Bhodip Tvam Brahma Rupa Andhakara Nivaraka Imam Maya Kritam Pujang Grihastejo Pravardhaya Om Deepaya Namaha. Now sprinkle water on the Vedi in front of your lamp. Om, thinking of Dharti Mata. Om Prithvi Tvaya Dhrita Loka Devi Tvam Vishnu Nadhrita Tvancha Dharyaman Devi Pavitrang Kuru Chasanam. We are now going to recite Swasti Vachan, which is a set of mantras from the Ved. You may take flowers and put your hands together and meditate on Bhagwan. These mantras are to make appeals to Bhagwan for various auspicious items and to praise him. Om Swastina Indro Vridashavaha Swastina Pukha Vishwavedaha Swastina Starakshorarishtanemihi Swastino Vrihaspatir Dadatu Om Payah Pritivhyam Paya Oshadishu Payo Divyantarikshe Payodaha Payasvatihi Pradishah Santu Mahyam Om Vishnoratamasi Vishnoho Snaptresto Vishnoho Surasi Vishnor Dhruvasi Vaishnavamasi Vishnavetva Om Agnir Devata Vato Devata Suryo Devata Chandrama Devata Vasavo Devata Rudra Devata Ditya Devata Marato Devata Vishve Deva Devata Vrihaspatir Devatindro Devata Varno Devata Om Yaho Shantir Antarikshagung Shanti Prithivi Shantir Apah Shantir Oshadayah Shanti Vanaspatayah Shantir Vishvedevah Shantir Brahma Shanti Sarvagum Shanti Shantireva Shanti Sama Shantiredhi Om Vishwani Dev Savitar Duritani Parasuva Yad Bhadran Tanna Asuva Sushantir Bhavatu. You may offer these flowers in front of your lamp or your Ganesh Ji's Murti. We are now going to do some puja to Ganesh Bhagwan and Mata Parvati. You may take flowers and white rice in your hand, put your hands together, pray to Bhagwan Ganesh to bring us success in all the good things that we set out to do and to bring us understanding while we are reciting the verses of Bhagavad Gita and trying to understand them. Om He Ramba Tvameyehi Ambikatrayambakatmaja Siddhi Buddhi Patetrayaksha Lakshalabha Pitu Pitah Nagasya Nagaharatvam Ganaraja Chaturbhuja Bhushitah Swayude Divye Pashankusha Parashwadhe Avahyami Pujartam Rakshartancha Mama Kritaho Ihagatya Grihanatvam Pujankratuncha Rakshame Om Gananantva Ganapati Ganghavamahe Priyanantva Priyapati Ganghavamahe Nidhinantva Nidhipati Ganghavamahe Vasomama Aham Jani Garbhadama Tumajasi Garbhadam Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha Ganapataye Namaha Om Ambe Ambike Ambalike Na Manyati Kaschana Sasastyashvakaha Subhadrikam Kambilavasinim Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha Ambikayai Namaha. offer the flowers in front of the murti of Ganesh Ji and Parvati Mata. Now offer water 4 times in front of their murtis. Om idam padhyam esho arghyan tatha achmanniyan jalam snaniyan cha maya dattang grihana parameshwaro. Om ganapatiye namaha gauriye namaha. Offer 2 pieces of cotton, raw cotton. Om ime vastre yajñopavite ganapataye namaha gauriye namaha. Excuse me. Now offer chandan using the ring finger of the right hand to the foreheads of both the murtis. Om gandham chandanam ganapataye namaha gauriye namaha. You may now sprinkle some colors, abir, kumkum, sindur, etc. Om abhirang kumkumam chaiva sindhuram bhagyavardhanan nivedayami te mata grihana parameshwari nata parameshwaram. Offer white rice. Om ime akshataha ganapataye namaha gauriye namaha. Offer some flowers. Om idam pushpam ganapataye namaha gauriye namaha. Now light an agarbatti if you haven't lit one already. And then you are going to do arti with it. Turn it around the murtis in a clockwise direction 3 times. Om tato dhupam magrapayami ganapataye namaha gauriye namaha. You may now do exactly the same, but using a diya or a lit camphor. Om pratyakshadeepan darshayami ganapataye namaha gauriye namaha. Hasta prakshalanam. After you have done this, rinse your hands with a drop of water and now offer some form of prasad. If you have something sweet, you may offer that, or nevedya, or even a fruit or a raisin. Om nevedyam samarpayami ganapataye namaha gauriye namaha. Sprinkle water. Om achmaniyam ganapataye namaha gauriye namaha. Now offer a pan, supari, camphor, a pinch of camphor, clove, and a coin. Pan, supari, pinch of camphor, clove, and a coin. Om tambhulam pungi palang ganapataye namaha gauriye namaha. Using the diya or the camphor that you lit earlier on, you may do arti again around the murtis. Om yani kani cha papani janmantra kritani cha tani tani sarvani vinashyanti pradakshina pade pade. बोलिए विघ्न हरता गणेश भगवान की जय. जगत जननी पार्वती माता की जय. On the first day of this Gita week, you would have established a kalash. If you do not have a kalash established, you may make this offering in front of your lit lamp, your house lamp. You may take flowers and rice in your hand and meditate on all the holy places of pilgrimage and God's manifestation as the oceans, the rivers, the mountains, and of course the Vedas. Thinking of this beautiful idea, listen to this mantra and pray to Bhagwan. Om tatvayami brahmana vandamana stada shaste yajamano havirbihi ahiddamano varunneha bhodyurusha gvam samana ayuhu pramoshihi. Offer these flowers on your kalash or in front of your lamp. We are now ready to do puja in respect of Bhagwan Sri Krishna. Take flowers, meditate on Bhagwan, on his murti, and do dhyan. Om Vasudeva Sutan Devam Kansa Chanur Mardanan Devaki Paramanandhang Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. Offer the flowers in front of Bhagwan's Murti and now offer flowers again as a seat. Om Vishweshwara Jagannatha Deva Deveshwara Priya Asanna Divya Sarvesha Dasya Hamtobhyam Ishwaram. Offer water 4 times now. Om Idam Padhyam Esho Arghyan Tatha Achmanyan Jalam Snaniyan Cha Maya Dattang Grihana Parameshwaram. Panchamrit. Om Snanam Panchamritan Deva Grihana Parameshwara Anatha Natha Sarvagnya Girvana Pranati Priyam. Water again. Om Ganga Godavari Reva Sarayu Yamuna Tatha Saraswati Adi Tirthani Snanartam Prati Grihetam. Offer a piece of cotton as a yagyopavit, a janeu for Bhagwan. If you want to put it onto the murti, you can put it over his left shoulder and under his right arm. Om yagyopavitam paramam pavitram prajapateyat sahajam purastat ayushyam agrayam pratimuncha shubram yagyopavitam balamastu tejaham. Offer a second piece of cotton as clothing. Om Veda Sukta Samayukta Yajna Sama Samanvite Sarva Varna Prade Deva Vasasi Prati Grihatam. Using your ring finger, apply a chandan tika to the forehead of the murti. Om Shri Kandham Chandanam Divyam Gandhadiyam Sumanoharam Vilepanam Surashreshtham Chandanan Prati Grihatam. You may offer some til if you have. Alternatively, offer white rice. Om Akshatansya Surashreshta Shubhradhunasya Nirmala Maya Nivedita Bhaktya Grihana Parameshwaram. Now offer flower petals again. Om Mallikadi Sugandhini Malyatyadhini Ve Prabho Mayarathani Pujartam Pushpani Prati Grihetam. You can offer tulsi. Om Tulsi Manjari Bhirya Kuryat Hari Harachanam Nasa Garbha Graham Yati Mukti Bhago Na Sanchayam. Agarbatti, offer in a clockwise direction. Om Vanaspati Rasodbhuto Gandhadyo Gandha Uttamaha Agreha Sarva Devanan Dhupoyam Prati Grihetam. Using the diya or a lit camphor, do arti. Om Sajam Javarti Sanyuktam Vahanina Yojitam Maya Deepam Grihana Devesha Trailokya Timirapaha. Hasta Prakshalinam. Rinse your hands thereafter and offer some prasad, nevedya, ya phal. Om Ghrita Pakvam Havishyanam Payasancha Sasharkaram Nana Vidhancha Nevedhyam Vishnurme Prati Grihatam. Sprinkle water near the murti. Om Sarva Papa Haram Divyam Gangeyam Nirmalan Jalam Achmanam Mayadattang Grihan Parameshwaram. Offer a pan, supari, pinch of camphor, clove, and a coin. Om Pungi Palam Mahadravyam Naga Valli Daleryutam Grihana Deva Devesha Drakshadini Sureshwaram. Do arti. Om Yani Kani Cha Papani Janmantra Kritani Cha Tani Tani Vinashyanti Pradakshina Pade Pade. बोलिए श्री लक्ष्मी नारायण भगवान की जय, सीतारामचंद्र भगवान की जय, श्री राधे कृष्ण भगवान की जय। ओम नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव हर। जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे श्याम। We'll now continue with our program.
पंची शोभित कर मधुरा नील चलदन अरुण धार जनु बिंब फल नयन कमल वीरा पूर्ण इंद्रविंद मुख पीतांबर शुभ जय मनमोहन मंद छवि कृष्ण चंद्र महाराज जय यदुनंदन जय जगवंदन जय वसुदेव देवकी नंदन जय यशोदास नंद दुलारे जय रघुवंदन के मृगतारे जय नट नागर नागन दैया कृष्ण कन्हैया तिरुचरैया पुनि नक पर प्रभु गे वरदारो आओ दीनन कष्ट निवारो पंछी मधुर आदर धर तेरी होवे पूर्ण यह विनय मेरी आओ हरि मुनि मागण जाको आज लाज भारत की राखो कोल कपोल चिबुक अरुणारे मृदु मुस्कान मोहिनी धारे रंजित राज वर्णयन विशाला मोर मुकुट वैजंती माला कुंडल श्रवण पीत पद आशे कटिकिन कनि काजन काजे नील जलज सुंदर तनु सोहे जबलकि सुर नर मुनि मन मोहे हसत तिलक लक बुंगराले आओ कृष्ण बांसुरी वाले कृपय पान पूतना धार्यो बका बका गागा सुर मार्यो मधुवन जलत निदब ज्वाला भय शीतल लखतहि नंदलाला सुरपति जब ब्रज चढ़यो निशाई मूषर लाल मारी वर्षाई लगत लगत व्रज बहायो गोवर्धन दरी बचायो लख यशोदा मन भ्रम दिखाई मुख मह 14 भुवन दिखाई कंस अति उदम मचायो कोटि कमल जब फूल मंगायो नाद कालियः तब तुम लीने चरण चीनने सिर भय कीने सबकी पूर्ण करि अभिलाषा केतिक महासुर संहार्यो कंसहि केश पकड़ि दय मार्यो मात पिता के बंदी चुराई उग्रसेन का राज दिलाई मही से मृतक चहो सुत लाओ मातो देव की शोक मिटाओ चालीसा कृष्ण का पाठ करे और धारे अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि फल लहे पदारथ चार सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय। अच्युतं केशवं कृष्ण दामोदरम् अच्युतं केशवं कृष्ण दामोदरम् रामनारायणं जानकी वल्लभं रामनारायणं जानकी वल्लभम् अच्युतं केशवं कृष्ण दामोदरम् अच्युतं केशवं कृष्ण दामोदरम् रामनारायणं जानकी वल्लभं रामनारायणं जानकी वल्लभम्। कौन कहते हैं भगवान आते नहीं कौन कहते हैं भगवान आते नहीं भक्त मीरा के जैसे बुलाते नहीं भक्त मीरा के जैसे बुलाते नहीं अच्युतं केशवं कृष्ण दामोदरं रामनारायणं जानकी वल्लभम्। कौन कहते हैं भगवान खाते नहीं कौन कहते हैं भगवान खाते नहीं बेर शबरी के जैसे खिलाते नहीं बेर शबरी के जैसे खिलाते नहीं अच्युतं केशवं कृष्ण दामोदरम् अच्युतं केशवं कृष्ण दामोदरम् रामनारायणं जानकी वल्लभं रामनारायणं जानकी वल्लभम्। कौन कहते हैं भगवान सोते नहीं कौन कहते हैं भगवान सोते नहीं माँ यशोदा के जैसे सुलाते नहीं माँ यशोदा के जैसे सुलाते नहीं अच्युतं केशवं कृष्ण दामोदरं रामनारायणं जानकी वल्लभम्। कौन कहते हैं भगवान नाचते नहीं कौन कहते हैं भगवान नाचते नहीं तुम गो
Jai Shri Krishna. We are now going to commence with the invocation in respect of our Gita recitals. Those of you who are following the text, you may refer to the Sri Lakshmi Narayan Puja Havan or Satsangh book, and it is found on page 83. Alternatively, you may focus on the screen in front of you. Om. 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 Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Dhyanamoolam Gururmurtihi, Pujamoolam Guru Padam, Mantramoolam Gururvakyam, Mokshamoolam Guru Kripam. Kasturi Tilakam Lalata Patale, Vakshastale Kaustubham, Nasagre Varamoktikam Kartale, Venum Kare Kankanam, Sarvange Harichandanam Sulalitam, Kanthe Chamuktavali, Gopastri Pariveshtito Vijayate, Gopal Chudamani, Pullendi Barakantamindu Vadanam, Barhavatam Sapriyam, Shrivats Ankamudarakostu Bhadaram, Pitambaram Sundaram, Gopinam Nayanodaphalarchitatanu, Gopasanghavritam, Govindam Kalavenuvadanparam, Divyangabhusham Bhaje. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayiniim Amba Tvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshiniim Namostute Vyasa Vishal Buddhe Pularvindayatapatra Netraha Yena Tvaya Bharata Tela Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipa Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetre Kapanaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gita Duhe Namaham Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogda Gopal Nandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamritam Mahat Vasudeva Sutan Devam Kansachanur Mardanan Devaki Paramanandham Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum Bhishma Drona Tada Jayatra Tajala Gandhadharni Lotpala Shalya Grahvati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghor Makara Duryodhana Vardini Sotirna Kalu Pandave Rananadhi Kevartakaha Keshavam Parashyavachah Sarojamamalam Gitarthagandhotkatam Nanakyanakakesaram Harikatha Sambhodana Bodhitam Loke Sajjanashtapadera Haraha Pepya Manam Mudha Bhuyat Bharata Pankajam Kalimalaha Pradavansi Naha Shreyase excuse me मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुतः स्तुनवन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैर्वेदैः साङ्गपदाक्रमोपनिषदे गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थितः तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तन्न विदुसुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। ॐ गीतासु गीता कर्तव्य किमन्ये शास्त्रसङ्ग्रहे या स्वयं पद्मनाभस्य मुखपद्माद्विनिसृता सर्वशास्त्रमयी गीता सर्वदेवमयो हरिः सर्वतीर्थमयी गंगा सर्ववेदमयो मनुः गीता गंगा च गायत्री गोविन्देति हृदि स्थिते चतुर्गकार संयुक्ते पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते भारतामृत सर्वस्व गीताय मतितस्य च सारमुद्धृत्य कृष्णेन अर्जुनस्य मुखे भूतम्. We will now do Gita Arti.
ओम जय भगवत गीते मैया जय भगवत गीते हरिय कमल विहारिणी हरिय कमल विहारिणी सुंदर सुभनीते ओम जय भगवत गीते करम सुमरम प्रकाशनी कामा सती हरा मैया कामा सती हरा सर्व ज्ञान विकासनी सर्व ज्ञान विकासनी वेद्या ब्रह्म परा ओम जय भगवत गीते निश्चल भक्ति विधायणी निर्मल मलहारी मैया निर्मल मलहारी शरण रहस्य प्रदायणी शरण रहस्य प्रदायणी सब विधि सुखकारी ओम जय भगवत गीते राग द्वेष विधारिणी कारिणी मोद सदा मैया कारिणी मोद सदा भव भय हारिणी तारिणी भव भय हारिणी तारिणी परमानंद प्रधा ओम जय भगवत गीते आसुर भाव विनाशनी नाशनी तम रजनी मैया नाशनी तम रजनी देवी सदगुण दयानी देवी सदगुण दयानी हरि रसिका सजनी ओम जय भगवत गीते समता त्याग सिखावनी हरि मुख की वाणी मैया हरि मुख की वाणी सकल शास्त्र की स्वामिनी सकल शास्त्र की स्वामिनी श्रुतियों की रानी ओम जय भगवत गीते
Jai Shri Krishna. We are going to commence with this evening's Gita recital, and we are reciting from chapter 5, and we are now commencing with verse number 11. So just to give you some kind of introduction, in case you have not been on the satsang, about where we are and what we are discussing, Arjuna is inquiring from Bhagwan Krishna about two different methods or paths that Bhagwan has commented on about what is good for us in this world, what kind of methods we can use to attain the Supreme. And it is something that may be confusing some people. Why is it that there are so many paths? Because God is so unlimited, and therefore the paths to God are unlimited. In addition, all of us have different personalities, different likes and dislikes. We come with different impressions from our past life, and therefore different paths will appeal differently to each of us. What maybe have a sweet taste for me may not be palatable to the next person. But Bhagwan in his wisdom has not left any of us abandoned. Irrespective of what likes and dislikes we come with, what kind of likes and dislikes we have in this world, he has created a path for us. And this idea is driven home aptly in a wonderful text called the Shiv Mahimna Stotra. And the verse that I'm going to tell you about from there was quoted by Swami Vivekananda when he attended the World Parliament of Religions. And people asked him, tell us about Sanatan Dharma. What is Sanatan Dharma? And he used this verse to explain it to him. And I hope that it's going to shed some light to all of you as to why we have these parts and actually how beautiful this variety is. So Pushpadanta in the Shiv Mahimna Stotra says, Trayi Sankyam Yogaha Pashumatim Matam Vaishnavamiti Prabinnehe Prastanehe Paramidamadaha Patyam Iti Chaha Ruchi Nam Vechitrayad Drujuhu Kutilaha Nana Patajhusham Nana Mekoho Gamyastwam Masihi Paya Sammarnavaha Iva. He says, the different paths to realization are enjoined by the three Vedas. So the Vedas are giving us various methods in which to attain the Supreme. And he mentions it here. He says Sankhya Yoga, which is what we are talking about now. Sankhya, and in this chapter, Bhagwan also uses the term Sannyasa Yoga to describe this. Pashupata Vaishnavam iti. So some people are following the paths that are dedicated to Bhagwan Shiv, that is called Pashupat. Some are following the Vaishnava tradition. People follow different paths, straight or crooked, according to their temperament, depending on which they consider best or most appropriate, and reach you alone, just as all the rivers taking different winding paths eventually reach the ocean. And this is the message that Bhagwan Sri Krishna is giving to Arjuna here in this verse. He's saying to him, by listening to your question, I get the impression that you do not understand these paths, and that is why you think they lead to a different place. So just like on the way to the hellish regions, there are different paths. Similarly, the path to the light is different. I know that many of you recite the Sundarkand. In the Sundarkand in Doha number 38, Vibhishan says to Ravan, Kam krodha mada lobha saba nata naraka ke pant, sab parihari raghubirahi bajahu bajahi jehi sant. He says, listen, my brother, O Lord, Kam krodha mada or lobh, all of these things are different roads to the same hell. Give up these different roads. Aur bhajiye jine sant bhajte hai. Sing the glories of Sri Ram, like how the saints are doing it. So we can end up in the same place following different paths. And we should be blessed or very happy to know that Sanatana Dharma is so vast. Therefore, in relation to that, I want to say that many are asking the question, why we have 2 dates for Krishna Ashtami. It is so linked to these verses that we are reading. We have different preferences, we are following different sects, and we are doing that which our sampradaya has guided us to do. So there shouldn't be any confusion. We should be happy that Sanatana Dharma accommodates us all. So let us get immediately now into text number 11. Kayena manasa buddhayaha kevalerindriyairapihi yogina karma kurvanti sangam tyaktva atma shuddhaye. If you are following in your text, we're going to recite it again so that you can also be able to recite. Kayena manasa buddhaya kevalerindriyairapi yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktva atma shuddhaye. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Kayena, the body, manasa, the mind, buddhaya, the intellect, kevaler indriyerapi, are actually operating amongst the senses. It's not mine. I'm not attaching myself to any of these. Karma yoginaha karma, the karma yogi who is performing actions, kurvanti, how is he performing him? Sangam tyaktva, sangam means attachment or association, tyaktva, he has distances himself from it. He has nothing to do with it. He has given it up. Who has he given it up to? Because we can't say it's not me, but it is happening. He has given it up to the Lord. He has dedicated it to Bhagwan. He says it is only happening because of God. And why is he performing it anyway? Why are the senses, the body, the mind doing all of this? Atma Shuddhaye. Atma Shuddhaye, to purify one's existence. In this verse, the word Atma does not mean the soul. Because the soul, according to Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan Krishna has already told us, is pure, is eternally pure. What is it that needs purification? Our existence, our way of life. Therefore, Atma Shuddhaye means for us to purify our lives. Nishkam Karma Yogi, Mamata Rahit Hokar. The true yogi, who is a karma yogi, he performs nishkam karma. That means without expecting any fruit, doing it purely to purify his existence. And I will not consider purification of one's existence as a fruit, because it is totally untainted by any kind of material inhibition. Indriya man buddhi vah sharir se निरासक्त होकर केवल अतः करण की शुद्धि के लिए ही कर्म किया करते हैं. The selfless karma yogi, remaining unattached by detaching himself from the senses, mind, intelligence, and the body, performs deeds only aimed at the purification of his consciousness. If the consciousness or his awareness, his knowledge becomes purified, it is more than likely that his actions will become purified. So the big question then is, why has Bhagwan given us a body? If we were not meant to perform actions, why did we get a body? Because through the experience of performing actions, we will be able to purify our existence. Using this body to perform actions, because it is material in nature, it needs constant attention, sustenance. We have to eat, we have to drink, we have to sleep, we have to rest. But we must not misunderstand that we are only given the body to eat, drink, sleep, and rest and enjoy. That is a misconception. So many people believe and will say, we only have one life. Let us make merry and enjoy this life. That may hold true, but how do you make merry? according to the guidelines of the scriptures, not according to our own whims and fancies. If this body has been given to us to realize God, and upon this realization, we come to the understanding that the body, this kaya, is actually a temple because God resides in it. When we become self-realized, we realize that God is everywhere, including within this body, within this heart. Which person will pollute a temple? If the body is a temple, it needs to be kept pure. A temple cannot be used as a dustbin. Therefore, it is important for us to consider what we put into this body and what we do with it. A body that does not engage in action through a deficiency in metabolic processes leads to the accumulation of toxins. So for both physical and mental reasons, the body should be engaged in action. Excuse me, I'm so sorry about that. A body that accumulates toxins will become the root of pain and illness. Therefore, the body must be used to engage in action. This is the physical aspect. Similarly, the body that is not being used for good actions becomes an accommodation for an unhealthy mind. The mind, the body, and the intellect have to work in sync with each other. One cannot be healthy without the other one being healthy. So the healthy body, the kaya, must be kept healthy, and it is kept healthy through the yoga of action. Manasa, the mind. The mind can be our best friend or our best enemy. Once the mind gets carried away by the senses for a lack of control, it also becomes a plague that gives rise to wrong action and karmic results. The mind is not easily stilled by focusing on nothingness, especially in this Kali Yuga. It is not conducive to be focusing on nothing for long periods of time. We may succeed for an hour or even a day or two, but beyond this, the average person in this day and age, for him, it is not attainable to follow that path. It is a very difficult path. And this is not the best way to subdue the mind. The best way is to engage it in the right direction with the right kind of actions. The mind should be engaged in the right kinds of activities. Next one, buddhi, the intellect. What is the intellect and what is the difference between the mind and the intellect? The mind is easily swayed by the senses. The intellect has impressions of our past lives and greater knowledge with which it can guide the mind. But the mind has to become receptive to what is in the intellect, the higher intelligence. If the mind is swept away by the senses, the intellect will be of no use at that point in time. Therefore, the mind must be brought under control, and doing things with great thought, awareness, understanding, and knowledge, we will be able to access the buddhi, the intellect. So there must be no lack of effort, but a complete renunciation of the fruit. This is what Bhagavan is saying here. The karma yogi understands that he may take ownership of an effort, but no ownership over the result. Now I'm going to qualify the word ownership of effort. Some philosophers will say that I don't own this action. I am not performing this action. For our understanding of being in this body, we may call the action ours for now, but with a qualification. And what is the qualification? I am doing it, but only because I am empowered by the Supreme Lord, because His Shaktis and the prana are present in my body, that which He has given me, I am able to perform these actions. This is the understanding of the karma yogi. And when the fruit is given up, the natural result is self-purification. This is what Bhagavan is saying in this particular verse. We are now going to move on to the 12th verse. Yukta karma palam tyaktva shanti mapnoti neishtakim ayukta kamakarena paletyakto nibhadyate. In this verse, Bhagwan is saying, offering the fruit of actions, yukta karma palam tyaktva, giving up the fruit. Tyaktva once again means to give up. Palam, the fruit, the results of these actions. The karma yogi, giving up the results of these actions. What happens to him? I mentioned earlier that in the previous verse, Bhagwan says that Atma Shuddhaya, he will purify his consciousness, his awareness, his existence. But there's something that is given, that is here, that goes beyond that. Shantim apnoti neshtikim. Neshtikim, let's start with that word. Endless, asimit, continuous. What? Shantim. Peace. Apnoti, he will attain. So Bhagwan is so generous. See, Bhagwan is referred to as the Mahadani. He's so generous that while Arjuna is asking about a path that needs to be followed, while Arjuna is talking about a journey, Krishna Bhagwan is already telling him, if you follow this journey here, this is where you are going to reach. You will attain endless peace. Ayukta kamakarena. If we perform these deeds, how? With selfish desire, meaning we are only performing it for a specific reason, because we want some kind of fruit that is going to give us some kind of benefit or enjoyment in the short term. Key word is short term. What will happen? Phale sakto nibhadyate. You will become attached to these fruits. Nibhadyate. And this will cause your bondage. It will tie you down further. What is the path of becoming a seeker? If that path is going to tie us down back in this world, what is our eternal sickness that we have? Rather than treat the symptoms of today and tomorrow, we need to cure the major sickness that we have. What is that? Birth, death, disease, and old age. Janma, mrityu, jara, dukhe. That is our eternal sickness. And to end that, we have to get rid of this nibhadananti, these bondages, the things that bind us to this world. So why is Bhagwan telling us that we must not be bound? Because bondage causes rebirth. And the problem with rebirth, one may say, well, I'm a devotee of God. I don't mind taking many more births and doing whatever I need to do. Maybe this is the will of God, etc. But every time you take birth, there is a little bit of a gamble, because there are 8,400,000 species of life. And there's no guarantee in which of these species you will be born. And one thing is for sure certain, is that we are at the highest part of the rung of this ladder of species. We may be called the dominant species on this planet. And for that reason, we may have precedence over all other beings, all other life forms. But if we are born in lower life forms, there is possibility that you will fall even lower into the ladder of species. So why should we risk this idea of being happy to be born over and over again? So this is something we need to work towards. We need a path that's going to end our bondage, and the bondage will limit the number of births that we have to go through once we reduce the bondage. And when we completely get rid of it, there won't be a reason for us to take these material bodies again. So money can buy temporary pleasure, but not everlasting peace. So while this whole idea that Arjuna is discussing with Krishna Bhagwan is not a financial transaction, we can understand that the currency for everlasting peace is a change in mindset. If we change our mindset, immediately we have the right currency. The change in mindset gives rise to selfless actions. Selfless actions mean no selfish motive. Doing things to purify our existence and for the benefit of society. Now, if we look to our own spiritual welfare, but we don't perform actions, we give up all actions, we become like the tortoise that pulls in all its senses, limbs, head, etc. into the shell. It may become safe for some period of time, but you will not benefit others in society. If you are a karma yogi, however, you will benefit yourself and those around you by your actions. Therefore, a karma yogi is truly selfless in nature. He's not thinking about himself only. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna is the ideal example of a karma yogi. If he was not a karma yogi, how will we benefit from all the assistance he gives us every minute of the day? So everlasting peace cannot come by forced repeated births. Everlasting peace comes from chopping up the fruits that cause the rebirth. And fruits are sometimes new and good, and sometimes fruits are decaying and harmful. Therefore, it can also become a roller coaster of new experiences that are not peaceful. Why should we take that chance? However, in this verse, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says that for this peace, we give up the fruit, but not our association with God. Nishtha must be present. God realization. Be free from the fruits, but not free from God in your thoughts at all times. We are now ready to commence with verse number 13. Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijyati prabhu na karma phalah sangyogam swabhavastu pravartate. Na kartritvam na karmani. Neither the doership or the actual actions, lokasya of men, srijyati prabhu, determines na karma pala sanyogam swabhavastu pravartate. God determines not the doership nor the doings of men, nor even their contact with the fruits of actions, but it is nature alone that functions. Swabhavastu, bhav, the nature of the person, will determine the type of things he performs. And God cannot be blamed for the actions that we perform. Bhagavan is making it very, very clear. I know in Vishnu Sahasranam, there's one of the names of Bhagavan is the one who is blamed for everything. We love to blame Bhagavan. Perhaps when we are sad, when something has happened, we say these things, but we actually are saying these things in ignorance, because Bhagavan makes it clear here. Listen, you come with your nature into this world. Nature means your bhav, based on your past lives. Using that bhav, you are performing actions. And therefore, every time you are at a juncture of performing an action, you have a choice. You have a choice. God has given us the freedom of choice. Therefore, once we make that choice, unfortunately, we have to become responsible for the results. We cannot constantly say, this has happened because of Bhagwan, or this is my fate. So there's something that's very, very interesting that we can talk about here in this particular verse. And that is, what is likely to happen because of your bhav, because of your swabhav, your nature that you have come with. So remember, all our natures are not the same. But does that mean that we are entangled and will remain in that state throughout our lives? The answer is no. And therefore, astrology also is only perhaps 70 to 80% accurate. Because astrology tells you about what is likely to happen if you make no effort zero effort. The rest of it is up to you. You can actually make astrology change 360 degrees if you make the effort. And this is what Bhagavan is saying here. He's saying if you have to make your own decisions, you are responsible for the fruit. What does that mean? It means that we can change our destiny. We have the ability to change our destiny. And interestingly enough, recently I read something that the Mahadasha, when the planets have a particular planet has an influence on us, and we start to do the right kinds of things, that very planet which is causing difficulty for us starts to work in our favor. So we need to keep this in mind. And what does it tell us? It tells us that we have been gifted or endowed with something that is called ability. All of us have ability within us, and we need to use that ability to do the right things. I'm sorry, I think I may have missed one verse. So I'm going to read number 13 again. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasaste sukamvashi navadvare pure dehi nevam kurvanna karayan. The self-controlled Sankhya Yoga, doing nothing himself and getting nothing done by others, rests happily in God. The embodiment of truth, knowledge, bliss, mentally relegating all actions to the mansion of the 9 gates of the body with 9 openings. So all of us are in this body, and this body has 9 gates that are referred to here: the 2 eyes, the 2 ears, the 2 nostrils, the mouth, the reproductive organs, the organs of defecation. While all this work, he does slowly becomes aloof of them. So the karma yogi, understanding that these organs need to operate in order for the body to exist, he becomes aloof, he distances himself from it. He says they need to do what they do, and I am not actually this body, I am the soul. And he realizes this, and he constantly becomes aware of it. So the practice of action with the detachment and simply dedicating all of this to God rests in God. This awareness that I am not the body, I am the soul, ensures that every action becomes a prayer. And his detachment, this karma yogi, is not only an outward one. It is not only about the physical nature of the body and the soul. It also becomes a mental one. And he perceives God. How does he understand God? As the embodiment of truth, knowledge, and bliss. And he too, focusing on that God, also becomes an embodiment of truth, knowledge, and bliss. I'll now go on to verse number 14, which we have read already, but we'll continue with our discussions about it. So God has given us a fair amount of independence, and he makes this clear to us, and he is not responsible for our poor decisions or good decisions. He is able to influence us. How does he influence us? By us being aware of him, and depending on the level at which we are communing with God, we are communicating with him, studying the scriptures, etc., will depend how much God can influence us. But the responsibility does not lie with him. So all of this he has given so much of knowledge to Arjuna. But he says to Arjuna, you have to make the decision. I think you must fight. You should fight. These are the reasons why you should fight. But whether you fight or not now is up to you. The same thing, God is giving us information every day and influencing us. We have to try to make the right decisions, but most important of all, we cannot become inactive. So God has created this universe, and it is nature or his energy that is sustaining and keeping this universe in sync, in constant motion. So God has created the macrocosm, and we work within this system. The same macrocosm is duplicated in what we understand the microcosm, our immediate world as we know it. And exactly the same principle applies. Like the Parashakti keeps this body, this universe in motion, a fragment of that Parashakti that is found within us keeps our world in motion. So it is this nature that we must use to beat the system, if I could use that term. Take only the good that we need from it, and otherwise detach yourself from it. Then the system will work for us. We are actually not the doers. We are instruments of the great energy, and we are acting by virtue of nature and the system. We did not create the system. We exist by the energy of God alone. How then can we claim ownership over some action? So the fruits that we are not entitled to are actually because we can't act totally independent of God. It is through his energy that we are performing all of this. How can we then claim all the fruits? Therefore, those fruits are certainly going to lead us to bondage. So by trying to claim ownership over the fruits, we are actually trying to abuse the system. We are going against nature. And we have all learned what happens when we go against nature. It backfires and it will cause us difficulty. We have come here to learn in this world, and one day we will go back. That person, that being who has sent us here, one day he's going to call us back. Just like a young child is sent to the playgrounds by his parent, and when it is starting to get dark, the parent calls that child home, and the child must come back home. The obedient child has to go back home. Similarly, that being that has sent us here is going to call us back one day. The problem that we have is we are not sure exactly when he's going to call. Therefore, in whatever little time we have, we must perform like the karma yogi, with the attitude of the karma yogi, because it is through these actions that we will purify ourselves. And if we don't use our time valuably and we are called back sooner than later, then we have wasted this time that was given to us. So we cannot be trapped in this world without any hope and say that I am here and living just according to my nasib. You have to amend that nasib. You have to maximize the time that is given to you and perform these actions to the best of your ability, and that will lead to our purification. So we are now going to move on. There's one more thing I want to mention about the 14th verse. In this verse here, when Bhagwan is speaking, he uses the word Prabhu. And we know that Prabhu means Lord or God. Interestingly enough, in the Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra, one of Bhagwan's names is given there as Vibhu, which means the Lord of all creation. And more specifically, I want to just read to you what the word Vibhu actually means. He says, Vihasya gatir jyotirhir surur chira hutah bhugah vibhuhu ravi rochanah suryah savita ravi lochanah. Vishnu Sahasranam, it is given here that the one who dwells everywhere, or the one who is the master of the three worlds, is called Vibhu. And Prabhu is in the other verse that we have read, and the word Prabhu, also given in the Vishnu Sahasranam, goes on, the explanation goes on to say that the one who has created this world and is the master over it is known as Prabhu. So the Supreme Lord these words that Bhagwan Sri Krishna is using is actually names of himself, names of Bhagwan. And if Bhagwan is the one that is the supreme creator and the one that pervades everything, and that is the goal that we want to reach, then this is the path that we must follow. We're now going to read the 15th verse now. Nadate kasyachit papam na cheva sukritam vibhuhu agyanena vritam jnanam te muyanti jantavaham. Nadate kasyachit papam, receiving the sins of others, or the cheva sukritam vibhuhu, the Supreme Lord does not receive the virtue or sins of anyone. So we cannot be performing any actions and say, I'm dedicating all my sins to Bhagwan. He's responsible for it. That doesn't make sense, because he says he's not going to receive the fruits of the sins or the good actions. We can dedicate all our actions to Bhagwan, but we also need to try to understand what is sinful and what is not sinful. We can't be engaging in sinful activities every day and simply saying, I dedicate it to Bhagwan. That would be an abuse of this verse. We need to understand what is sinful behavior and what is not sinful behavior. Agyanena vritam jnanam te muyanti jantavaha. This omnipresent God, Vibhu, which I explained to you just now, is not going to receive the fruits of anybody's good or bad actions. Knowledge is enveloped in ignorance. Jnanena vritam jnanam. That person who thinks this, his knowledge is not easily accessible to him. He has not understood these verses, and therefore his knowledge is trapped in ignorance. Te muyanti jantavaha. And because of this ignorance, we are constantly falling prey to delusion. And this is causing our bondage. So immediately we need to take responsibility for our actions. And taking responsibility means to understand what is sinful and what is good, and then make the right decisions. Unless we decide to fully understand this concept or understand these concepts well, we'll make the wrong decisions. If we don't understand what is sinful and what is good, we will make the wrong decisions. Many of us are living life at the moment, going through our routines, repeatedly doing the same things, and we are quite comfortable doing these things without even realizing that many of the things we are doing are totally incorrect. So we are enveloped in ignorance, and so we think we are doing all the right things in life. So studying this Bhagavad Gita and these verses are helping us to understand that we need to analyze our actions, analyze what we are doing on a daily basis. And that will bring about positive change, because that is what is required. We cannot remain stagnant and expect to end this bondage. In conclusion, I want to use an example of a tree. A seed germinates and must grow. It becomes a sapling. It then becomes young, fresh, and full of potential. And its goal is to bear fruits. But the tree knows that it will never eat its own fruits, nor will it sit in its shade. Yet it works hard to grow with many branches, flowers, and fruits. And throughout this process, it is exposed to the harsh elements. As it grows, it selflessly produces oxygen, shelter, food, shade. And with all those difficulties, it still produces a fruit which the tree will never eat. So these verses are telling us to become like the tree. Why? There's something greater than the fruit of this tree. The tree seems to know that. And you know in which direction the tree is growing? Always towards the light, towards the sun. Because the tree has understood that the fruit that it bears is not going to give it the bliss that it wants. It is the light that is going to give it the bliss. And we too must germinate like the seed, grow into a beautiful, lovely young plant, and start to flourish and grow towards the light. And don't worry about the fruits. Let the fruits fall by from the tree. Eventually, somebody will benefit from those fruits, but it will help you to grow closer and closer towards the supreme light, towards Bhagwan. This is what these verses are teaching us. Become selfless like the tree. And in doing all of this, most certainly within this process, you will become happy and peaceful. Bhagwan promised us that in these verses. He says you will enjoy supreme bliss. Jai Shri Krishna. We'll now continue with the rest of our program.
रात शाम सपने में आई, रात शाम सपने में आई, दैया पी गए सारा रा 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 सारा रा 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 रा। रात शाम सपने में आई, रात शाम सपने में आई। जब शाम मोही भैया पगरे, जब शाम मोही भैया पगरे, भैया बोली कर रा 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 कर रा 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 रा। रात शाम सपने में आई, रात शाम सपने में आई। जब शाम मोही चुनरी पकड़े, जब शाम मोही चुनरी पकड़े, चुनरी उड़ गए पारा रा 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 पारा रा 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 रा। रात शाम सपने में आई, रात शाम सपने में आई। जब शाम मोरी गागर पोरे, जब शाम मोरी गागर पोरे, गागर पोरे जरा रा 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 जरा रा 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 रा। रात शाम सपने में आई, रात शाम सपने में आई। चंद्र सखी ब्रज बाल कृष्ण छवि, चंद्र सखी ब्रज बाल कृष्ण छवि, पग से तर गए तारा रा 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 तारा रा 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 रा। रात शाम सपने में आई, रात शाम सपने में आई, रात शाम सपने में आई, रात शाम सपने में आई। ओम सीताराम पवन सुत हनुमान, राधे कृष्ण की जय। आरती कुंज बिहारी की, श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की। आरती कुंज बिहारी की, श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की। गले में बैजंती माला, बजावे मुरली मधुर बाला, श्रवण में कुंडल जलगाला, नंद के आनंद नंद लाला, रति गोप कुमारी की श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की आरती कुंज बिहारी की श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की चाहते प्रकट भई गंगा कलुष कलिहारिणी श्री गंगा स्वरण ते होत मोह गंगा हसे शिव श्री जटा के भी हरे अधिकी चरण चबि श्री बनवारी की श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की आरती कुंज बिहारी की श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की चमकती उज्ज्वल ततरेनु बज रही वृंदावन वेणु चहु दिशि गोपी बाल देनु हसत मृद मंद चांदनी चंद कहत भव पद तेर सुन दीन भिखारी की श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की आरती कुंज श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की आरती कुंज बिहारी की श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की आरती कुंज बिहारी की श्री गिरिधर कृष्ण मुरारी की।
ॐ कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि। मङ्गलं भगवान् विष्णुः मङ्गलं गरुडध्वज मङ्गलं पुण्डरीकाक्ष मङ्गलाय तनोहरि सर्वमंगलमांगल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यंबके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते नारायणी नमोस्तुते नारायणी नमोस्तुते। ओम यानि कानि च पापानि जन्मांतर कृतानि च तानि तानि विनश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे। ओम सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ओम असतो मा सद्गमया तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमया मृत्योर्मामृतं गमया। ओम पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम अपराध सहस्राणि क्रियन्ते हर्निशं मया दासोऽयमिति मामत्व क्षमस्व परमेश्वर। आवाहनं न जानामि विसर्जनं पूजां चैव न जानामि क्षमस्व परमेश्वर। अन्यथा शरणं नास्ति त्वमेव शरणं मम तस्मत् कारुण्य भावेन रक्ष त्वं परमेश्वर। बोलिए विघ्नहर्ता गणेश भगवान की जय। जगत जननी पार्वती माता की जय। शिव शंकर भगवान की जय। सीता रामचंद्र भगवान की जय। लक्ष्मण जी की जय। महावीर स्वामी बजरंग बली की जय। श्री लक्ष्मी नारायण भगवान की जय। श्री बाल कृष्ण भगवान की जय। गंगा यमुना सरयू सरस्वती मैया की जय। श्री राधे कृष्ण भगवान की जय। ओम नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव हर। जय जय श्री राधे जय जय श्री राधे जय जय श्री राधे श्याम। जय सिया राम।